We still have Senator Gannon, so let's try to get through Energy and Natural Resources. So the Senate will please be attentive to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Energy and Natural Resources, to which was referred House Bill 56, an act relative to permits for siting of new landfills. Having considered the same, the committee recommends that the bill is inexpedient to legislate by a vote of 3-2. Senator Avard for the committee.
Senator Avard.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 56 inexpedient to legislate. House Bill 56 would have directed the Department of Environmental Services to establish a formula to determine the distance in which a landfill shall be located from a body of water. And as the committee heard during the hearing, the Department of Environmental Services had several concerns with HB56. The department's concerns included terms in this bill that had not been defined, which would have caused problems on implementation, science, that this bill also for site evaluation and potential impacts for future landfill sites in New Hampshire. However, the department testified that they fully support Senate Bill 61 as the correct approach to evaluate the siting of landfills. The department stated that, unlike HB56, SB 61 provides a clean rulemaking process, funding to conduct a study, and public input process. The department also stated that, as of right now, they do not feel that they have enough information to set any specific standards, so they have concerns with this bill that direct them to do so. Based on these concerns, the majority of the Senate and Energy and Natural Resources Committee voted HB 56 as inexpedient to legislate. The Senate Energy asks you to support its motion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Avard. The motion is inexpedient to legislate. There is further discussion. Senator Altschiller, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to explain why I believe this body should overturn the committee recommendation of inexpedient to legislate and pass House Bill 56. I'm grateful to my colleague from District 12 for opening the discussion about a previous action that this body took in sending Senate Bill 61 over to the House. That one proposes that the Department of Environmental Services hire an outside consultant to conduct a study of landfill siting standards. We heard testimony on a number of occasions from the department, most recently on April 4th, that they are understaffed and to fulfill their responsibilities in rulemaking to protect our extremely valuable natural resources. And we are sending help through Senate Bill 61. In the meantime, House Bill 56 sets a necessary preliminary protective standard. We have affirmed in this body that our current laws and regulations regarding waste disposal sites are outdated, insufficient, and lacking consideration for what we now know are concerning environmental hazards and threats to the public health and our environment. PFAS has made clear the failure to consider cumulative impacts in siting decisions and in evaluating other waste management activities. The policy questions the committee is obliged to grapple with are larger than engineering problems and involve more than technological design. House Bill 56 is not mutually exclusive to House Bill 61. In fact, they complement each other very well. And we had 511 people sign in to support that, as opposed to only 14 in opposition. Senate Bill 61 has not even had its public hearing in the House yet. To assume its passage as delivered to the House and simultaneously dismiss protections written in House Bill 56 would be reckless. We know we have significant work to do in writing a new solid waste permit standard. Our existing standards are widely recognized as inadequate. Our existing standards leave open threats to our environment and public health. Senate Bill 61 says that the general court finds that the most protective of these methods is to use of site-specific setbacks. This approach, the one of site-specific setbacks, quote, avoids the possible limitations of the current one-size-fits-all distance-based method, ensures that the setback is based on the conditions at the specific site, and concentrates protections on down gradient water and surface water where it belongs. That is excellent legislation we have sent over in Senate Bill 61, and I sincerely hope the House accepts it as written. House Bill 56 says the protection of perennial rivers, lakes, and coastal waters from contamination is in the public interest of the state of New Hampshire. Therefore, the setback from a leak, spill, or other failure from reaching the water body before a remedial action can be implemented is important. House Bill 56 is an insurance policy that fills the gap between right now and when the work proposed in Senate Bill 61, should it pass, is completed. Passing House Bill 56 just layers safety protections, it minimizes risk, and is a classic belt and suspenders combination. I hope this body will overturn the committee recommendation so that we may indeed make every effort to take immediate action alongside long-term planning to manage our solid waste responsibilities and ensure the protections of our precious water supply. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Altschiller. The bill is still open for discussion. Senator Waters.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. I too rise in opposition to the current motion, but I would like to say that we have made enormous progress in solid waste over the last few terms. And that's been bipartisan effort, and we've made good progress. We have passed a bill to give us a 10-year solid waste planning process. We have passed a bill to do for continuing study of the issue. We have taken great actions about PFAS and other kinds of contamination. The one that we have not quite gotten to yet is what to do about site-specific rules for siting of new landfills, and that has proven tough. And we passed the bill last year, it got vetoed. We've had more discussion about it this year in both bodies. And I think that what is important to note is how much we actually do agree on the issues that are before us here. My colleague from District 24 noted that the protection of perennial rivers, lakes, and coastal waters from contamination of the public interest of the state of New Hampshire, therefore setback from a proposed landfill for such a water body should be sufficient to prevent contamination. Yeah, we agree with that, and the House agrees with that. Also, we have come to agreement that the department, as it says on lines 9 to 10, shall establish a site-specific setback distance for any proposed new landfill from any perennial river, lake, or coastal water of New Hampshire, as defined in RSA 483b4. So that, yes, we should have site-specific rules here. We've also come to agreement through the debate over the last few years that we just don't know enough. The science on hydrology is not there for the DES to be able to make these determinations of how fast contaminants may flow if they breach the liner or otherwise leave the landfill site. So that bill, this bill discusses that, but note that Senate Bill 227, which actually provided funding to do that study and guidelines for it, the senator from District 12 incorporated Senate Bill 227 into Senate Bill 61. So that, we agree. We need some science before we can really determine what the setbacks are. So what's the difference here? How do we get there? House Bill 56 says, let's act preemptively now to ensure we've got a 5-year period of potential flow of contaminants. That would be the standard for the setback or the 200 feet. This bill's a little different from 1454 last year because it has a couple of mitigation possibilities that would give you some different year count there. So it did respond to some of the debate last year. I would say, in the context of this bill and in the bill we sent to the House, that we are in a fortunate period because we have, I think, a little time. There is no proposal now before DES for a new landfill. And Senate Bill 61 says that if one comes in while the rulemaking is undergoing, well, okay, it can come in and it can start working on it, but once the rules are passed, that proposal actually will have to be in compliance with the new rules. So I think we are kind of protected for this interim period. Now, in terms of the motion on this, we have, obviously we have three options. We could pass this now and see it as actually working in tandem with 61, or we could have retained this and worked through the House to make sure that between the two bills we end up with something this year. We've got to do something this year. And that really was my hope, and that's why I voted against the ITL. Or we could just simply ITL it now. So we've got to do something. I hope we can find a way to move forward with the House. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Waters. The question is on adoption of the committee recommendation of inexpedient to legislate. Seeing no further discussion, are you ready for the question? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. The motion of inexpedient to legislate is adopted. So I would propose